The Clarity Project. This podcast consists of feminine and masculine energies diving into the tough metaphysical questions. With hosts Nina Wilson and Dan McCleskey. This is The Clarity Project. Hey Nina, how are you doing?
It has been an interesting week.
Right.
I suppose that I could do what everybody else does and blame Mercury retrograde, but I think that it's just been my own doing. Chaos.
Well, this is our first podcast. I'm super vlog, whatever you'd like to call it, podcast, but I'm super excited to get this going. And so a lot of folks are kind of seeing this for the first time. Nina's amazing. We're going to find out a little bit more about her near the end of this, but wanted to dive in real quick and tell you guys a little bit more of what this is about. So this is a cool idea that the two of us had where we're both very spiritual. Nina's got degrees with what she does with this type of thing, and it's not all spiritual. She has a lot of health, mental health type of situations and things she does with her background, but a lot of spirituality comes into it. Where as far as for me, I've had a ton of visions and experiences and that sort of thing that I like to share through video. And we thought it would be cool to come together with male and female, perspectives, as well as masculine and feminine energies coming together. And feminine and masculine, Nina, and you've said this too, that has nothing to do with if you're male or female. It has to do with the energy and basically how it's going across. You guys will get to know Nina a lot more. And I'm sure Nina will probably come across more as the masculine sometimes than me. So we'll allow Nina to be Nina. So we've got two topics today. And our goal with this is to see if we can get two topics in within an hour's time. Sometimes it may go on a little bit longer, and then we'll talk about the second topic in our next podcast. But today, the first one is going to be ancestral karma. Is it our responsibility or duty to correct it? So I know everybody's got a pretty strong opinion on that one. So looking forward to hearing what you have to say about that, Nina. And next is looking at spirituality objectively. Which is a big one for me, just with a lot of the things that I've been through and seen. So I'm really excited to hear your side of this, Nina. Before we get started, though, I know we're kind of already diving in, but I did want to pay some homage to Claire Wineland. Now, Claire Wineland had a YouTube channel with the name almost identical to ours. It was just a little bit different. And I didn't find this out until after we started putting our show together. And when we found out, Nina and I kind of came together and we threw it back and forth, should we keep the name? And I decided yes. And let me tell you a little bit about Claire. So Claire had cystic fibrosis, and she documented through her life as far as how it impacted her at a young age, and basically the things that she wouldn't be able to experience because she understood she was dying, which is pretty powerful. And so she was a vlogger, she was a speaker on TEDx. YouTube actually did a little show specifically, or documentary on her. Unfortunately, she did pass away in 2018 at the age of 21 after a lung transplant. And after watching her videos, what got me and what I still wanted to continue using this name for was that she was really all about life and expressing what she was going through and all of those type of things. And I think she would be fine with this. You know, our names are a little bit different. She actually did change her name of her show later on before she passed away. But I did want to express my thoughts on her before we get rolling. So Nina, that was a lot I just said. So let's let's dive in. And I want to start with you because we've got to talk a little bit here, and I love hearing your opinion on things. So ancestral karma, is it our responsibility or duty to correct it? Nina, what is your thoughts?
I'm so excited about this topic because I'm actually currently writing a book, and it's sort of based on this a little bit. So I guess for some context, I'm writing a book about being black sheep and black sheep of the family, right? Which is kind of like we all know sort of stereotypically what that means. For me, like I never really fit in with either side of my family very well. It was always like I just learned to adapt. And even today, as a very old adult, I still have like a hard time sometimes with like understanding them. Within this past year, I actually started working with my ancestors. This is also like, I don't know my lineage. I don't know my biological father, so I don't really know anything except for a couple of things that I've been told on that side. And then on my mom's side, I just have never, honestly, this sounds so bad, but I've never really taken so much of an interest in learning about a lot of my ancestors on that side. The few that I do know about are like not really positive things. So I was just like, eh.
The
And then
reason
just feeling
the reason I'm
like,
laughing really quick, Nina, is that like, so we do ancestry.com. There's a lot of different ones out there where you can see who your ancestry, where it came from and all that sort of thing. And what you just said kind of made me this ring in my head, but everybody wants to be like related to some prince or princess or something major in history. But what about the one-legged hookers and stuff like that, that like
they're
a lot of
so
us came from that. Anyway.
no, but here's like that's important. Like that's really important. So one thing that I know just from what I know about my family. And I'm speaking about my mom, my biological mom side. And then I'm also going to speak a little bit about my stepdad's side, because I think there's something kind of there to understand. But one thing I know is that I kind of come from a space of poverty mindset. And I know that both sides of my family, from like lineage like down like out, like really struggled with poverty. And so that's kind of where some of this kind of started gelling for me, where I was like, okay, maybe I need to work with my ancestors. Maybe I'm the one who heals this money story within, you know, my lineage. But there's a couple of things to remember when you think about ancestors. One is that really refers to the lineages from your parents from this moment in your human life.
Okay.
My mom and my dad, those lineages, those are ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to remember that there's also this possibility, and I'm sure we will talk about this in an episode down the road, that I have had several lifetimes. I know I've spent a couple of lifetimes in India. So then you have kind of your, what I call, this was just kind of like my own doing, like our starseed ancestors. So our ancestors from our soul family and from all of our past lives and all of those things. And so when we talk about ancestors and our karma, like really, which one are we talking about? Of course, I'm thinking I'm human right now. I'm working in this lineage, but I do think it affects all of it potentially.
So Nina, I would say with that too, is it separates into two different things, right? Because we are in this human body that has a human lineage that has gone through time, and that comes with a certain amount of disease, a certain amount of hair loss, right? If that's in your ancestry. There's a lot of things that could come down that hike. But one of the questions I wrote down for you too, and I think you've already alluded to this, are we stuck in this family's lineages as a spirit? And I would say no, a big fat no to that, because just like you said, you've had more than one life here, and I know I have as well. And so for us to correct a ancestral karma, I believe that's stuck here on Earth in a 3D dimension. So as I chose to come into this body under this family name and all that sort of thing, yeah, a lot of baggage came with it. But as a spirit, this is the other side of that coin. Is it my responsibility to fix it? I grew up poor as well, in poverty. I remember having to go to Sister Carmen's pantry to get food when we were younger, out of Lafayette, Colorado, back in the day. And yes, that's affected my decision making. It affects, I think, the way that I act in this life. Because again, now I'm doing fine, but I've sacrificed and given up a lot to not have to feel that, or make sure my kids haven't had to feel that. So I'm kind of walking into my own trap here, because because yes, I have, I do believe in ancestral karma to a point, because I've lived a lot of this lifetime around what was put on my plate. But as a spirit, I would say no, absolutely not. And because you choose before you come here, I believe, a lot of what you want to learn. And some folks want to just learn in utero, right? They just want to experience the feeling of a utero, even without being born. And that could be, either a miscarriage or an abortion or anything like that. But ultimately, they got to feel what they meant to feel, why they were here. And so ancestral karma would have nothing to do with that. So I think that's why there's two major sides of this coin. And I went way deep with that. So what are your thoughts? Sorry.
No, I agree with you on all of those points. And so in like writing this book and thinking about almost like the black sheep archetype, like let's get rid of stereotype, and then noticing obviously, like I attract a lot of clients in my practice that are a lot like me. And so I've noticed with a lot of my clients, I actually, after I started writing this book, I started having these conversations with them, and a lot of them are quote unquote black sheeps too. And one thing that I came to a knowing of through my abilities is that yes and no. So what you're right. Like we do have, we get to, choose to be here. We get to choose which lessons that our soul needs to continue to grow. But then there's also like some of us that are put literally here. And I think especially this, one thing I've really noticed about this upcoming generation, and this has also been a very interesting experience with having a lot of friends pregnant. So I'm like, oh, like they're put here for a reason to literally help heal and kind of save humanity. That sounds very Avengers, but but in that sense of like making sure that we're not dooming ourselves by having all of these horrible choices that we may or may not be making. So with that, I mean, so I think there's a lot of different things with that. One thing that I've come to understand about the ancestral healing for myself, like through working with my ancestors for the last year and through kind of doing like looking really in depth about this black sheep archetype and really like digging deep into that, is that yes and no. So it's not necessarily, if we chose the lesson, then it's semi our burden to bear just so we get the lesson, and that's our soul chose that. But it is not necessarily our responsibility to take it all on. It's actually our responsibility to let it all go. The healing part is literally us choosing to do different than what we have for generations.
Right.
And it's not I have to, because here's what a lot of my clients have fallen into. I have fallen into this for most of my life, is that, okay, I guess I'm the healer of the family. So I turn around and I'm trying to heal all of my family members. And then I'm trying to like, generational trauma, there's solid research that shows trauma is passed down generation to generation to generation in different ways, even at a cellular level. So yes. Generational trauma is so real. It is not my job, or really anyone else's job, to do that. My job to heal my ancestral karma is literally to heal myself.
Ooh, and I like that.
Move forward and make better choices. And I don't necessarily want to say better choices. I guess let me retract that. Let me say different choices, because I do think that most people, most of the time make the best choice that they can given the information they currently have.
Right. So long story short, it would be ancestral karma is something that you accept as baggage to come and live through this life. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, to a degree.
Okay, cool. I had a vision once, which was a pretty intense, cool one, but it was with a Native American older man, and this was on the other side. And I was sitting with him viewing the situation. He knew I was there. I knew he was there. It was really interesting. And he was speaking about his son, and his son recently passed. And one of the things that was pretty neat is he said, "My son's here with me now." And he was super excited. And it was such a neat thing to experience that, with him being able to be there with his father at the time. Two different topics on that, though, is obviously passing over would end your lineage here on earth. It would end it. You would be able to start over from scratch again. But we know that we've got to live a whole lifetime with these people, right? And then when we pass on, we get to see them again, and it's exciting and it's fun. But it's the end of the lineage. And so a part of my mind too is, if this son that with the Native American descent, which is a heavy duty thing in the Native American culture, can choose to come back as an Irishman, right? The next round, and totally change it up. So, I think that there's a bigger topic within this topic, and I'm still trying to figure out what that is, but it's going as we're speaking here. So, at what point do we let go of that lineage on the other side? And I know that you could come back and choose to be with the same family again. I know you can. But also you have choices to do other things if you wish, stay home, choose a different part of the world, like you mentioned, in India and that sort of thing. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Honestly, the one thing that kept going through my head as you were talking was me just like thinking about my own soul family here on earth.
Okay.
So like I have my human family that, my soul chose to like be in this body and have this life and this experience. But there are people, and I mean, everything is so cliche these days in the spiritual realm. So I like have such a hard time sometimes actually using the language, but like having that soul family. And I know from a deep meditation and a past life regression that my brother, who I grew up with, is a member of my soul family. He is my brother, and we've been brother and sister in a lot of lifetimes together. But that's really out of like my family about it, right?
Right.
So there are other soul members of my soul family that I have met throughout my lifetime, and it's like they just feel like home, and you're automatically vibing with them, and you're automatically, I mean, it's just a different experience. And now when I look at it, a lot of, I don't really have like a huge friend circle, but most of my friends are soul family. So it just feels so satisfying and great.
How cool is that? And it's neat because when you come across somebody that you've known in a past life, even if you didn't like them, you can recognize that in this life. Because I've had that too, and I'm like, I don't like this guy. You know what I mean? And I've never met him, and that's not me. That's not my personality to do that. But I agree with you. Like my mother, I know I've had separate lives with her before, and maybe it was different roles or whatever it may have been, but we have a connection like that, which is really cool to be able to experience it. But I think that's where, gosh, I don't want to go too far in the weeds here, Nina, so pull me back if I do. But when we talk about say, and some people believe it, some people don't, but twin flames, or what's the other one, twin flames, or God, there's another one too. Like if you're soulmates. Sorry.
Oh, I was thinking that, but I was like, that's too obvious. That can't be the one he's thinking
That was
of.
Totally the one. So, hey, by the way, really quick, I love your shirt. Spiritual Gangster? I love that. That's awesome. So anyway, so with that in mind too, I do think that there are folks, and again, I've heard it, and I have a tough time with things that I hear sometimes, because sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't, which I think we'll get into in our next topic. But to a point, I do believe in that. I believe that maybe we did spend a intimate time somehow with this person previously, and it didn't necessarily have to be sexual, but we did at some point have a in-depth relationship with this person previously, and then we chose to do it again in another lifetime. What's your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. 110%. And when you talk about going off on the weeds, I'm going to say, you can't ask that question that you asked at the very beginning of this and not have conversations about these other things. Because when you talk about ancestors, it's literally, we are talking about soul families. We are talking about our human experience and our life here on earth. I think having an understanding is both important, or having an understanding of both is important. But I also think like leaving space for both is important. This is a completely other topic. I am not going to say any more to that because I will go off on a tangent. For real. We can save that for later. But
yeah.
But I think it's important to have those conversations. Here's an experience that I've had. So my best friend is male. Bless anybody who knows him and listens to this moving forward, but I'm going to tell this story anyways.
Please.
So we met 11 years ago, but I was not in a good place in my life. I think he was probably in an okay place, but I just was not. And so we only knew each other for about 6 months before I moved and did other life things. Reconnected about 3 years ago. And it was like, again, it just felt like home. I never had any insecurities. It was just like, this is my person. Like I totally, right? He had a lot of things going on, and so like we didn't date or any of those things. We're just best friends. And I mean best friends, like so energetically connected that I know when he's sick, I know when he's sad, I know when he's around certain people, like I know because I can feel it within my own body.
Right.
So one night I was meditating. I had done a cacao ceremony, and so that kind of opens my third eye a little bit more. And I was meditating, and I was deep in this meditation, and I saw like all of these, I had all like just flooding of all of these memories with the two of us. And I had like slipped into like a deep meditation of where my eyes are closed. Like if you walked in on me, it looked like I was sleeping. Okay. And I kind of came to, and I'm like saying these words, and I'm like, what the? And I realized I was reciting our wedding vows from previous.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I, of course, call him up, and I was like, oh my gosh, this experience, like you can't, like I can't. And then over the next month, like just flooding in of memories and memories and memories. And now I will still get them every now and then, and I'll have to be like, did like we do that here, or was that a past life thing? And then he'll either be, oh no, that was a memory we had when we went on vacation in Jackson, or yeah, no, I don't remember that at all, Nina. So that must be a past life thing. So
is he in tune to this previous life together too, or is this more you kind of letting him know, but he feels it so he knows it's true?
I don't think he ever had the opportunity to be skeptical of my abilities, because I was like, we're so connected. And I was always so on. Like every time he didn't feel good, I would call him right away and be like, are you okay? What's going on? And he's like, oh, how did you know that? Or every time he'd call me, I'd be like I would already know he was calling. So I'd always pick up, like it would barely ring. And he's like, how do you do that? I'm like, well, because I knew you were calling. So I picked up my phone already. There's all these things, and he just didn't really have that opportunity to be skeptical. And then this past year, because again, we're so connected, I went into this deep meditation and saw him like start the beginning of his kind of spiritual awakening. And so between just him believing in me and seeing what I can do, and like having that, and then that kind of awakening, that just really, all it really did was kind of open this little box that he lives in. Kind of opened it up a little bit so that he could think outside of it a little bit and be more open to what I was saying. And then during that, because I mean, I got so many messages with him, for him all of the time. It was like a constant for about 3 months after he started that process. And like, I was like, dude, I can't even sleep. Like you have to start listening to, they're trying to connect with you. They're trying to have conversations with you. This is a whole nother topic, by the way. Right.
Future shows. We're going to keep we're going to write these down.
all of the abilities here, but and so no, he was not at all, but um he did see me suffer a lot because I would have those memories of us and he didn't, and that's hard. It's really
Right.
difficult.
So for obviously choosing to come here and still be part of each other's life in some aspect, right? Um, at some point, then you chose obviously to be more open with your abilities here, but also you're helping him open up a bit too. So even though you guys are in separate paths, you still connect and you're able to help because he's part of your soul family, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. So we've got a lot of different topics off of this one topic. Obviously, ancestral karma. When we came into this, I really came with the understanding that we were going to be talking about in this physical 3D dimension, and my father's 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 father, and we've kind of branched out into a lot of different things. So one, the two sides of the coin, your spiritual self and your physical self, with coming into this life accepting the baggage of your ancestral karma while living this life, but also understanding on the spiritual side, you don't have to. You don't have to. You have freedom. You have freedom
Yeah.
to choose. But also, you're discussing a third element into this, which is our soul family and being connected. So we're ancestral karma. Then we're looking at three different topics within the one that I'm getting from, and they're all super interesting so far for sure. And I think we agree more than we disagree. I was trying to get us to disagree a little bit more, but I think we're just having a conversation here. So, which I love. So,
I don't think that's terrible though, and I think that's what's happening though is like you and I, even though we have different experiences completely, like how we came to spirituality and all that thing, that's very different. And I think even our perspective on it is a little bit different. But what's really happening too is just showing that there are certain things that even if we have completely different ways of getting here, even if we had completely different experiences and even today, completely different perspectives on a lot of things, there are still things that we know to be very true to get here at the same time. And so I think, moving forward, when we get to talk more about the objectivity of spirituality and all of that, like that's something to remember too. So that kind of leads into the next topic. I'm not going to go there. I will save that. But having the understanding of the soul family and your spiritual piece. And then, like you said, having human free will. I think those things are really important when you're talking about ancestral healing, because it's hard not to have those conversations and have an understanding of that.
right.
I think there are people that come and they're human, and their spirituality literally is their ancestors and their ancestral healing. And they don't have as much of the soul family stuff. For me, I think because I just started working more in the 3D this last year, I have less of an understanding of that view of ancestral healing, because over the last few years, it's really been me trying to work with my own soul and then discovering my soul family to keep me motivated, because I didn't resonate with my human family as much. And so I think that that's why it took me, like I needed to feel comfortable and like I belonged somewhere, even being the black sheep, before I could really settle into the human part of it and then working with those ancestors.
Isn't it funny though? The more that we learn, the more that we learn that we don't really know that much, right? And I love that that it opens those things up for us to explore more. There's so much, and I absolutely love that. And I do want to hear more too about your family ancestry that you're doing now. Some of the stuff that you're picking up into. Before we do that, though, I just again, to bridge everything together one more time, though, before we do that, is that ancestral karma, yes, it's baggage that you'll collect while you're here. Even if your ancestry in this physical realm had, say, a drinking problem that can affect you, I think at the a low, an inside level where you feel it later on. As a spirit, you have the freedom to either follow that urge or to pull yourself away from that urge, which may change the karma anyway. You just choosing to be here may affect that. You could choose to go with it, which it would be not necessarily a weakness, but you could allow to just go with it and keep following that what your urges are, or you can fight that with your spirituality and who you really truly know who you are and make a difference to your family. So my kids aren't seeing me get drunk every single day and, whatever, get crazy and be a raging alcoholic. And so that's my spiritual free choice to fight that urge and move forward so they don't see that. Maybe it's getting weaker in their DNA down the line. Was that a fair assessment, would you say?
Yeah, and I think that by you doing that, that's you healing your ancestral karma.
So we do it anyway.
Yeah, I think so.
In some ways, we don't have a choice. You're here to help it.
Because honestly, like, as a human, would I have chosen to be the black sheep of both of my freaking families? No, that shit's hard. Like, it's hard when you don't resonate with people in your family. It's hard when you don't feel understood by them. It's hard when they judge you and have all these opinions because they're your parents and your aunts and your uncles and your cousins, and they have all these opinions because they don't understand you. Like, I don't think I would have, as a human, consciously chosen that. As a spirit, I did for a reason. I don't really know what that was exactly yet, but I mean, I kind of do. That's a lie. I kind of know my purpose. So, but I think that I was just kind of put in this position, and I don't think I honestly don't know if I had a choice to not. I mean, yeah, okay, I could have become a raging alcoholic and just kind of like I could have chose not to find my authenticity and not express that and not follow my purpose for what I'm here. Like, I think there were lessons for me to learn as a soul, but as a soul, I think I also had a purpose to help everyone else and to help. Like, I'm a healer. I'm a natural healer, Native American natural healer. I believe that my soul, chose to come back and be a healer. So there's also a purpose for my soul as opposed to just learning its soul's lesson. And I don't know that I necessarily, I mean, knowing who I am, there's no way like I wouldn't have been the black sheep. So
well, one of the reasons you are a black sheep is because you did, I think, recognize when you came into this life that you have been here before. You are more open, right? You can see things a little bit more. A lot of your family's not. So they're going to take a lot of what they've learned in this life. And if that's religion or real 3D life lessons, that's where they're getting everything from, where you are bringing a lot of knowledge to this game, right? That they may not have brought or have. Yeah. So they might be scared of you in some, not scared of you, but they don't understand you because you are able to comprehend a lot more things that they're not. So you being a black sheep is actually maybe opening their eyes up to a point too, and helping that ancestry or the ancestral karma, sorry, a bit as well, because they're seeing somebody that can open up and feel emotions and be able to feel and see things and be able to say it. So sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but just wanted to throw that out there too.
I think when you say that too, I'm wondering, like, I now kind of have this question. I can remember, like, I don't know, 12 years ago or something, when I brought almond milk home, and they're like, what? Like, they thought I was a crazy person because I was drinking milk and not cow's milk. So then, a few years ago when I started discovering my psychic gifts and I started using them and I started talking about them, I do wonder how much of it is just, we don't understand that, so like, you're just this crazy person, or how much of it is fear of, yeah, I don't understand that and I don't really want to, and also, of course, I think there's a lot. I mean, yoga, I remember a couple of my family members saying, isn't that the devil's work? And I was like, what? Like, I had never,
oh no.
you know, and then encountering now, like having done yoga for like 15 years now, I'm like, yeah, okay, I've encountered a lot of that. But so then having these gifts and like utilizing them, and I think some of them are also afraid of like me just being different and changed with that. And I'm
Mhm.
not. Like I'm still the same person I am. You asked JD and he was like, well, no, I mean, you're a little bit more out there than I realized before, but it's just because I'm talking about it with him, right? Like he doesn't,
Right,
but he's like, no, as far as who you are as Nina, like you're still Nina.
right, right.
Still my human self too, you know?
And I think a lot of people struggle with that in their families, and a lot of people. So, I got a big belief that a lot of us are waking up a lot more than we used to, and I think that that's a thing here on Earth that's just kind of happening, right? People have their views, strong views or light views on that, but I think younger folks coming in here now, and a lot of spirits that are coming to this Earth are coming more like with the knowledge that you have. You know what I mean? Just more open, being able to see more. And so we're kind of starting to get a separation. And there's a separation of folks that are very low vibration, that are hanging on as tight as they can to what they know. And then there's folks like I would say you and I both, that are coming in with a bigger understanding of what the big picture is. And that's what really is making us the black sheep, or the folks that, you know, they're taking our jobs and we got to have our guns. And, at some point, it's not about that. You know what I mean? It's about so much more. And not to generalize that group, but you know what I mean? So there is going to be fear. It's an uncomfortable thing when your safety blanket gets pulled down a little bit and you have to see outside of your norm, or what you have known as your norm. So all I could say is that you're perfectly normal and awesome. And
Thank you.
yeah, so happy that you're sharing this stuff. And someday they're going to be watching your show here, and super excited to listen to you speak, I'm sure. So what are
No,
you? Oh, sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, you go, because I think you were going to ask what I was going to start with. In fact, I'm pretty positive you were, so go.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. I want to hear about more of what you're doing now, because you said you're working more with your ancestry family now. So obviously, I know you can tune in quite a bit. So I'm curious, what are you doing and what are you getting?
So this is a really interesting thing because I honestly never really had too much of an interest in doing that work. I was just like, yeah, I'm not really, don't feel very connected to my human family. So why would I work, with my ancestors from those lineages and whatever else? Like, I was just like, but so last year, this is kind of what happened. Last year, some free webinar thing about working with your ancestors dropped in my lap, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I'll just watch this hour webinar. It was pretty interesting, but I still didn't 100% resonate with it. And then JD actually well, he didn't buy me a book, but we were at this store and there was like this book and it was called Working with Your Badass Ancestors. And he picked it up and he was like, you should read this. This looks really cool. And then first I was like, wow, bro, like you're really kind of getting in on this spiritual stuff, aren't you? Like, so then I was just like, yeah, because first of all, I just know usually that those are signs. And so I bought the
Mhm.
book, and it's been pretty cool. I started doing some of just the ritualistic things in there, like the meditations and the prayers, because I didn't know where to start. Like I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I do know that my biological father has Native American somewhere in his lineage.
Mhm.
When I'm tan, I look Native American. And then when I had, so I had worked with a couple of psychics. I didn't know they were psychics at the time, but I ran one of my friend's business. She's a psychic, and I ran her business for a little bit. And I had some pretty like big meditations and visions within those times and those spaces.
Mhm.
And I remember like Native Americans. And then I've always been very drawn to the culture. And then I had in my psychotherapy practice, I had a client come in and she was psychic and she would always see this Native American woman sitting next to me during our sessions, and she would see
Cool.
like the smudge and stuff during our sessions, which I'm like, gosh, dang, I wish I could see this. Like, what's going on?
Right.
So I was kind of excited because I was like, I kind of want to discover that piece, because that's not even a piece I know about as far as like on paper, right? My mom's side of the family's very English. So I started doing this work, and nothing, I get discouraged a little bit, because when I do things like this, I don't have these big experiences. You have big experiences. I do not. And it is so freaking frustrating for me, because I just want like a big cool experience.
Yeah.
I've had one where I've met my future son, and that's it. And then I was like, well, I guess if there was one to have, that was a cool one to have. But I don't get to have those big experiences. But here's what's happened since I've been working with them. And I've been working, so I physically have been really ill the last about 12 months. And we're finally on a treatment program for that it feels good. And
Good.
I've been working, like just asking my ancestors to help me with my physical healing. Like, help me heal this. Help me. Like, I can't give you more for your lineage if you don't help me out here. And so what has happened is I'm just kind of automatically being guided to things to help my health, which I mean, I would ask my guides and angels and all that for anyways, but I think that it's been a little bit more clear since I've started working with my ancestors. And the other thing is, I have been so like I don't want to say savage, but kind of savage about Native American stuff lately.
Nice. Yeah.
Like, no, we're not gonna talk about smudging, but I will tell you how to smoke cleanse, and you will not use sage, because that is sacred. And I didn't really have, I kind of had a little bit of knowledge of that before, but I did not have an understanding of it. And now I'm like so Black Friday, okay, is the Friday after Thanksgiving, right?
Yes.
And everybody goes and does all this crazy, stupid shopping stuff. And
not me. Yeah.
do we know that that's Black Friday, or are we aware that that's actually Native American Heritage Day?
I didn't know that.
Exactly. So the day after Thanksgiving this year, I mean, I got on my Facebook, I went live, and I went off. I was just like,
right.
Ew. Did you know that
question for that though? It was a Native American Heritage Day. Who put that into place and when? Obviously that's not like that's probably done within the last 20 years.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I know like all of November is Native American Heritage Month.
And see, I didn't know that. So you're bringing more attention to that then for everybody.
Yeah, and I feel so passionate about it. And so the Department of Interior, which is a big political thing, I don't really do politics, so like bear with me here. Yeah. But that was initially created to protect Native American lands. Of course, that's not really what it has been from the dawning of time, but I just felt like an unbelievable sense of pride, and like I just can't even explain what my body felt like the moment we had a Native American appointed to that position this year.
That was cool. That was really cool. Biden, great job so far.
So cool. So I think that's more of how things are coming through for me. And I just embody it so quickly and so easily that I don't get to have these like super big cool experiences. But you know, I think that also being able to open that up and reach out to my ancestors, I still don't know who they are. I did kind of get like this little snippet of a word in my ear one time, and I like looked it up, and I had to go down a rabbit hole, but the rabbit hole led me to Lakota. So I was like, well, maybe that's what I am.
That's really cool. With that said too, I hear some things like that sometimes too, one of which was in Latin, which I had to do a bunch of research to figure out what it was, but that's really neat. So for those of you listening, pay attention to stuff like that. That's really cool. Yeah.
What was it? Now I have to know, like, what was it?
So it was actually a joke. They were making a joke. It was on the other side. So I was in that in-between state. And so I heard a word and it came out to be a psyllium. So a single potato is what it meant, or what it translated to. And they were making fun of us pooping here on Earth. And I actually talked about this on one of my videos from Spiritually Out of the Closet. But so they were joking about us in our physical form having to do our normal functions.
Yeah.
Thanks, spiritual ancestry. So yeah, so anyway, so we do have funny people on the other side.
They are funny. I mean, a lot of the times when I get when I do psychic readings, I get messages for clients. I mean, sometimes I'm just laughing and they're like, what? And I'm like, your guides are hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Well, I think that's great that you're digging into, because anytime, let me step back a little bit. Spirituality in general is just like science. It both starts the same way. And how it starts is by asking the question, why? That's how it all starts. And then you start experimenting and you start paying attention and understanding. And if it happens multiple times and you start getting a rhythm, you can understand that it's real and that you can reproduce it. So that's where science and spirituality come together. And I think it's really neat that you're stretching out with your spiritual ancestry as well. I think that's really neat because it's bringing you in directions where you can dive in and you're hearing things and you can do the research. I think that's really cool. And I think that anybody listening could probably get something from that. So it's very cool. Now I got to tell you, we're right at our hour mark right now. So we just got to one of our topics during our first show, which is really cool. So ultimately, I'm hoping that everybody out there has gotten a lot from today's topic. Obviously, there's going to be a second part to this, which we're going to cover looking at spirituality objectively, which I'm looking forward to doing. But again, I got a lot from today, Nina. I think that a lot of people did. What I would like to say, though, is that I would like for you guys to check out Nina, too. She does a lot of cool things outside of this podcast. And Nina, if you could tell everybody a little bit about what you're working on, that would be great.
Yeah, so I am a licensed psychotherapist, licensed in a couple of different states, and I have a holistic health business. I developed a holistic protocol to the treatment of mental health, and it is highly effective, more effective that I've noticed with my clients than just regular psychotherapy. So it's something that I'm really excited about. That's one of my biggest passions. I think I was put here to help people heal. But on the other side of that, I have some online coaching programs that are spiritual mentorship. So those people who are just kind of starting on their spiritual journey and discovering themselves. And then this work with my ancestors has also kind of pushed me into another space, and that is plant medicine and psychedelics and the use of those things for mental health. And so I'm right now in the middle of getting my certification for that so that I can bring that into my business as well. Super, super excited about that. And it's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
I love that. And I think that that's going to be a show on its own too, with the psychedelics and spirituality and how you could use it for therapy, but also possibly on your own if you know what you're doing. Would be pretty interesting to talk about. So again, my name is Dan McCleskey. Spiritually Out of the Closet is my show, Spiritually OTC on YouTube. Obviously, we're going to be airing this on here, and then Nina's going to air it on some of her platforms as well. But I'll put both of our handles down below so everybody can check us out on those different formats as well. And we want to hear from you guys. That's probably one of the biggest things, is we want to hear from you as far as topics that you want to hear about. So today we chose these topics, and there's going to be a lot more of these. So we want to get an idea of what you're interested in, maybe hot topics that are going through your head. We would love to hear them. So please write in the comments down below as far as what you would like to hear, and we would gladly take those into consideration for our future shows. So I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Our next show that's coming up here is going to start with looking at spirituality objectively, and then we're going to break into a lot of other topics. Nina, you rock. I look forward to our next show, and y'all have a great day. I appreciate you.
Yay, bye.
Bye.